Plunder Pit. Chapter 9. Down the Vein. "Get down," said Chad swiftly. "Down behind the rock. He mustn't see us." Both ducked behind the boulder and crouched there with their heads just above it, watching. The distance was too great to make out details. All they could see was a tiny figure with a pail in his hand strolling down from the mine house to the small brook that poured southwards through the valley. The man reached it, filled his pail, went back up the hill and vanished inside the ruinous-looking stone building which stood on a ledge about 200 yards from the water. They waited a long time, but nothing else happened. Clive looked at Chad. "What about it?" he asked. "Got to have a look," Chad said. "The job will be to do it without being spotted." Clive frowned. "That's a fact. I can't see how we can get near without their spotting us." "Best dodge will be to go round to the back of the hill above the mine house," Chad said. "It looks like rough ground on the top, and we shall be near enough to see what sort of chaps they are. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a vein down which we can crawl without being spotted." "What's a vein?" Clive demanded. "A channel, cut by a cloudburst. Look at that dark line down the hillside just beyond the mine building." "I see. Yes, that would bring us pretty close. Come on." "Not yet. We're both a bit fagged. And it's going to be tough work, crawling down that vein. Best thing we can do is to stop here, up here a bit, and eat our sandwiches. And may cloud up later. There's a misty look over in the west." "Cloud?" said Clive. "I'll bet there'll be cloud. Another of those busting thunderstorms, if I know anything. All right, let's lunch. I'm hungry enough." Wanda's sandwiches were excellent. Then the two slipped down the reverse side of the hill in search of water. They found a spring. It was ice cold and most refreshing, and, after drinking, they went back to their post of observation. It was now between 3 and 4 o'clock, and as the haze thickened, Chad decided that they might as well push on. But he warned Clive that they must not show themselves, so they worked round the back of the ridge into some thick heather, and creeping through this, got down into the low ground at the back of the hill in which the mine was. All this took a long time, and it was nearly 5 before they had climbed the hill and found themselves immediately above the mine building. By this time, the cloud had thickened to a sort of hot yellow haze, and feeling pretty sure that no one could see them, even if they were watching, the pair snaked along the hilltop until they reached the head of the vein. "The very thing for us," Clive said. "It will take us within 50 yards of the building." "Yes, but those 50 yards are all open," Chad warned him. "We may have to wait till dark after all." "That doesn't matter so long as we get Jan," Clive declared. Chad looked at him. "My dear chap, you surely don't imagine we can rescue Jan? It would be perfectly crazy to think of it. What earthly chance should we have against a couple of big men?" Clive looked crestfallen. "Then what are we going to do?" he asked. "Find out if Jan is there. If he is, we go back and fetch the police." They crept down the bottom of the vein. Some ancient cloudburst had cut the peat and gravel right down to the boulders which lay beneath the top layer of soil. And it was about the nastiest travelling that anyone could imagine. As they got further down, the boulders gave way to mud. Thin, black, peaty stuff which was horribly slippery. To make matters still worse, there wasn't a breath of air, and it was, if possible, hotter than ever. It seemed to Clive that they spent half a lifetime crawling and creeping until the vein was deep enough to allow them to walk upright, and almost as long before Chad, who was leading, signed to him to stop. "We're about opposite the mine house," Chad whispered. "Wait till I have a look over the edge." He crept up the slippery bank and peered through the fringe of heather on top. "All clear," he said, "but we'd better wait a bit until this mist grows thicker." Clive climbed up beside him. They waited about half an hour, and all the time the odd yellow haze thickened. At last Chad got up. "Now if you're ready, Clive," he said, "but just remember you have to follow me and not make a sound. I've a notion that these fellows we're up against are about as tough as they make them. It's the end of chapter 9.